Today we're going to be looking at two modern retro helmets from Japanese manufacturers Shoei and Arai. These two helmets are very popular because of the aesthetic it holds, but also the quality and safety they both have as well. So today we're going to be looking at the Shoei Glamster 06, the 06 standing for it being the ECE 2206 variant, as there was one previously just called the Glamster, and we now have the Concept-XE in place of the Rapide for the Arai. Now, the reason why we're going to be looking at both of them is because they are heavily popular. They're both Japanese made. This one's handmade all the way through, apart from one bit when they do the shell cutting, and this has a mix of technology as well as hand craftsmanship in the Shoei Glamster 06. Now, for the price point, this comes in at around $429.99 RRP all the way up to $539.99 RRP for some of those fancy graphics. For the Arai Concept-XE, it comes in at $459.99 RRP all the way up to $549.99 RRP for a cool graphic like this. Now, the graphics in front of you, the Glamster 06, I've chosen the two most difficult ones for me personally to say on camera, that being the Shoei Bivouac as well as the Arai Sakata. That's the one, thank you camera Tom. But those are the two graphics in front of you today. My dad actually personally owns the Glamster 06, he absolutely loves it. Besides the point, let's talk about the shells. So, as you would know, this Japanese handmade helmet comes with a AIM shell for this one, which basically means it's got 5 different layers all on top of each other to give it a nice, safe shell. It also is a bit more flexible, a bit more malleable than that of the Arai here, because the Arai uses something called a PBE CLC construction, which is like hand layered fiberglass on top of each other to make a really hard, solid shell. Now, moving on from that, we have the EPS. The EPS is a lot harder in the Shoei Glamster 06, and it's also a little bit thinner, I believe. So that absorbs more of the impact energy as you come off your bike. Hopefully you don't. The Arai has a softer EPS on the inside to accommodate the harder shell on the exterior to absorb that impact energy. So two different ways to go about it when trying to protect your head in the event of an off. If we look at the sizes, this comes from a XS to a 3XL for the Glamster 06, and then this is an XS to a XL for the Rapide. For the shell sizes, as a shell split, let's say, the Glamster 06 has 4 different shells, whereas the Arai Concept-XE has 3 within that size range, which is pretty accommodating. Last thing on the shell, I know I keep mentioning the different shells, but it is a helmet that's pretty much the entirety of said helmet. The Glamster 06 is a lot slimmer, it's a lot sleeker in its appearance as compared to the Concept-XE. So if you want something that doesn't look so big on top of your noggin, then a Glamster 06 might be your best bet. Albeit they both reach the ECE 2206 standard, which is the latest safety standard for these helmets. If we move on to the interior, they both have removable washable liners, so that's nice and easy for us. We can take it out if it gets a bit stanky over the course of using it and wash it again. And for me personally, in terms of its fit on top of the head, I'm more of an Arai head. I know that's something that kind of isn't so true nowadays, but I instantly feel more comfortable in an Arai because of my head shape, which is more of a round oval. Now in the US and the UK and Europe, it's an intermediate oval shape, which means that a Shoei or something like that might fit you a little bit better, even though both try and accommodate an intermediate oval. All I'm saying is I fit an Arai better, you might fit a Shoei better. It's all down to personal preference when it comes down to the fit. Another plus point for the Shoei though is you can now get it PFS in some of our stores at Infinity, so you can get it true to size. As a personal level, I have a Shoei XSPR Pro now, even though I am an Arai head, but I had it PFS, so it now is the best fitting helmet that I have in the range. So plus points to the Shoei on that front. Moving on to the exterior of the helmet, once again we are talking about the visors. For the operation to take it off and to reinstall it, the Glamster 06 kind of wins in this battle because it only has 1 bolt on either side, whereas the Concept-XE has 2 on either side. Another plus point for the Arai though is the fact that you can get a dark tint as well as an iridium visor. It's a bit like gold dust to find the iridium ones, but the Glamster 06 doesn't even have that option apart from just a dark tint visor. Another plus point for the Arai Concept-XE is if you have other Arrais at home that are a bit more modern with the Vast V system, you can interchange that visor onto here, so you don't actually have to buy an extra dark tint if you already have one. If we look at the closure system for both of these, they are both double D-ring, so they are the safest sort of standard that we have when it comes to helmet security on top of our noggin, so both good in that front. Now, for you wondering if you wanted to play your 70s or 50s music in this helmet, you can. It's a bit more of a tighter squeeze in the Glamster 06 as compared to the Concept-XE because the Arai actually has cutouts for your speakers, where the Glamster has a bit of a tighter squeeze, let's say. Moving on to the ventilation of the helmets. I don't know why I was doing that with my hands, but we have the Glamster 06 with a top vent here, operated by a little switch, and you have permanently open vents at the chin portion of the helmet as well. Moving to the Arai, it may look like it doesn't have a top vent, but with some clever ingenuity and tech, it actually has vents through the EPS channels at the top here. So as soon as you open up the eyebrow vents, that acts as your top vent. And the vent at the chin is also open and closable, if that is even a word. If we move on to the overall looks of the graphics, personally, I lean towards Shoei's graphics. They have a really clean, classy style to them. As you can see with the Concept-XE, they are quite loud. If you're into that, then that might be more your preference. But for me, it is a win for Shoei in terms of the graphics. A question you guys may want answered is the overall wind noise. Now, these aren't going to be the quietest helmets in the world because they weren't designed for that. They're meant to have that classy, stylish, retro look, all the while being a very protective helmet. But on a personal note, our Concept-XE is a little bit quieter for me, but that's purely because it fits me a lot better than the Glamster 06. I may or may not have pinched my dad's one to look cooler on my Triumph Bonneville when I still had it, and it was a little bit louder. With that being said though, like I said earlier, you can get this PFS to make it fit better, and that should help with the wind noise. If all else fails, just chuck in some earplugs, as I would recommend anyway. But that pretty much wraps it up for both of these helmets. I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below, which one you would prefer to have. Be sure to subscribe and ride safe, and we'll see you all soon. Which one are you choosing, Tom?
Aeron Hepper.
Aeron GP?